Hi guys, it's me again. So I wanted to break it down and tell you how my day is starting out. Today I took the trail up the side of a hill to find the best seat in the house, a large granite boulder overlooking the lake down below. As I enjoyed the view of the lake, a lot of wildlife came into view, and I could see down at the bottom in the valley where the green meets the edge of the lake, 3 large canine-looking animals. Not entirely sure what they were, whether they were coyotes or stray dogs. We did hear some yapping in the background at camp last night for those of us staying here, so could be either, but they were rather large. There's some houses surrounding the hills. So that was some of the wildlife I saw this morning. And then I'll show you some of the wildlife I saw on my walk yesterday. For my first walk yesterday, I left the corgis in the shade and took off down a different trail I had not been down before. I think it was the Cottonwood Meadows Trail, and it bypassed the lake and went more in the direction of the hills behind the lake. And I did not know how long this trail was because it does not have it marked on the sign. So I continued on this path, and the further I got, I would tell myself, just over the next hill I'll turn around, just around the next rock I'll turn around. But I was enjoying myself so much on the walk. There was lots of different small rocks along the side of the road that were like quartz with like calcite. At one point I was listening to music, and I said in my mind, wouldn't it be nice to find some gold along the trail? And not too long after that, I spotted a quartz. Like less than a minute after that, there was a quartz with like gold in it. So I found it funny that the universe was playing the game back with me. Because as I was walking, I would say, I remember when I found gold rocks on the trail while I was walking at Lake Marina. And no sooner did I say that, there was a rock with gold flakes. Now whether it's real gold, who knows? The universe has a sense of humor. It could be pyrite. But I thought it was rather humorous. I like to do things like that because it's often that things surprise you in your surroundings when you do things. So I continued on, enjoying the views, looking at the bushes, and shortly after that I felt like I was being watched. So I turned around, and I had just said a prayer of protection because I was pretty far along this trail by then. And damn if I didn't see this walk out right by me. Now, what you can't really see is that she was hiding behind the bush and she had no reason to come out to say hi. She was fully blocked, but she chose to come out from her hiding spot to be seen. And you can't see it very well, but she has a chick with her. So I left her behind and continued on, enjoying the views, wondering if this trail would ever end, which it didn't seem to. And I try to keep my hikes to the morning times and toward the evening, and this was probably around 4:30, I think, in the afternoon. And about the time I was ready to turn around, I started heading back. And there's a Y in the trail, and I chose to go to the left, which I had not been because it looked like it pointed back in the direction of the campgrounds. And here you can see another family of turkeys. And they too have chicks. Now you can see theirs. And this is right off the trail. They weren't aggressive at all. They were very friendly and curious. So you can see them there a little bit closer. So I took this Y off the Cottonwood Trail, and it came up to some rocks on a hill. There's some elevation gains, but it wasn't too horrible if you're used to walking on hills, which I've grown accustomed to in California. I once took a road when I first moved out here called 7 Hills, and it was truly 7 hills. Let's just say I had a workout that day. So here you can kind of see me getting to the top of the little small incline. And what I see around the rocks that I just passed is kind of an alcove that is pretty neat that I was walking up to check into because I like to find nice boulders to sit on and journal and listen to music and plan my day and meditate. And so I'm walking up inside this alcove. Of course here you have to watch for snakes too, so I'm watching for snakes as I go up on all these rocks. No one else around. It's peaceful. You can see the top of the hill, lots of rocks, mature trees, tons of lizards on the rocks. You can't see them, but they're all over. Super shady. Perfect place to sit and think about life. There's me, top of the hill, after a long walk, pretty haggard. And here I was kind of playing with the area, and I said, if there's any nature spirits around, show yourself. And I got some really pretty light displays on the camera. Of course the sunshine was shining down. And here's when I exited that area. I had not realized that I had exited at the entrance to the PCT, Pacific Coast Trail, which is one of those famous trails you read about. Yeah, I did not know, and that's probably a really long one. I've not looked into it. There was hoof marks along later on the trail that I had joined accidentally, so I'm sure there's trailheads into it where you can ride your horses at, which I'll have to look into at some point. So anyhow, if anyone has been on that trail and has any insight into it, I'd love to hear from you. I no sooner got back and felt guilty because I had a nice long walk and the corgis needed to go for their own, so I got Nell and Xander moving, which takes a lot of work. They're pretty lazy dogs. And it was cool enough now. I got back
to the right.
at 5:30. It's about an hour and a half walk for me. Almost 2 miles, I'd say, but I wasn't drinking it. So here you see them just plodding along. That's all they do. When I bought them, I was not thinking at the time about future plans. And I bought corgis because they were cute and would go great with the ranch if I took them to horse shows or decided to go places. Well, they are not the best hiking dogs, so do not buy them to be athletic if you ever get into corgis. They were the perfect beach dogs because they like to just go and lay on the beach, and they like to say hi to everybody on their walks, and everybody would stop you to ask if they could pet the corgis. So if you had any plans that required you to be on time, you could not be out and about with them because they were a magnet for everyone. And the town that we lived in was very dog friendly, and there was always other dog families out walking with us. So as you can see, Nell's just kind of finally catching her pace. I let her be lead, but some days I regret that. So they're pushing about 9 years old, so they get a little arthritic, get a little slow, like to stop. They like to smell every flower on the way. Anything that looks even halfway interesting, they're checking it out. So you don't get very far very fast. So here, about this time on the trail, we were noticing some deer in the background, which you can't really see on this video here. So we were trying to be quiet and sneak up on them because they hadn't noticed us yet on our walk. So anyhow, as I was saying, the corgis are now about 9 years old and they're hanging in there. Once you get them moving, they get from point A to point B. Talking them into walking all the way to the lake was a bit of a challenge, but I did. There's them stopping to smell every little scent they smell. I will say that they're actually really good at flushing out quail, because we flushed out a lot of quail on our walks together here. They don't even have to try. You can kind of see the deer in the background while we stopped at this spot. It's a nice little buck. I can't tell how many points he has on him. He's a little bit further away. Looks like a good age on him. So peaceful here. The animals and the wildlife. They're curious enough that they are fairly close. All of my ground squirrels and my chipmunks and my birds, I have woodpeckers and all kinds of birds around my campsite. I'll leave out like fruits and nuts for them, and they, by the next evening or morning, they're all gone. It's quite funny. And they're all very chatty, talkative. You can probably hear them as I'm recording this now. So we finally made it to the lake. Don't ask me how long their walk took. Probably longer than my walk took, and I walked 2 miles. There's a nice big, I don't know if they're called egrets. What are they called here? The big birds on the rocks. I'm gonna have to learn all their birds and stuff here. There's so many different ones here. These big boulders. I like to come down to the lake in the mornings and the evenings because the deer are always out eating. You do have to be careful with the corgis though. As I was sitting here this morning at the campsite, there was a coyote that came probably 4 campsites down to the start of the camp. And it looked like he was carrying a ground squirrel in his mouth. So broad daylight, no inhibitions whatsoever, just crossing the campground. So you do have to be careful here if you have small dogs. Although mine could lose some weight, they're not very small. Hopefully these hikes will help with that. So here, Nell is. Xander just did his flute. He said, "I'm tired, Mom. You made me walk too far. I just want to lay here for a minute." See his little back legs? Yep, perfect. He's got it nailed. And so now I'm trying to ask them to walk back. And this is where it starts to get a little funny. Checking out for any other wildlife to see if we see anything. Nice big fat crow flies across. They're huge out here. And that looked about like the last of the wildlife we were going to see on this hike. except for one last thing. And Nell's about to show you what the last thing is as I get her up and moving. My fearless leader. Not. Takes convincing to get her up and going again. Here she goes. And she didn't make it very far before she finds a reason not to have to walk. And here's the last wildlife we see. A nice, juicy, fat catfish bonehead. And the instant she smells it, she just has to roll all around it. Can't get enough of it. So, if you thought you wanted to have a corgi, I hope this video dissuades you. Because this is what you have to put up with when you have one. This is my queen diva. Excited to be able to roll in mud and catfish.
Okay, are you good?
Super excited. You can just see her smiling. It just made her day.
Yep.
And she's still not done.
Don't poke your eyeball. Hey! Don't poke your eyeball on the stick.
And you might think this is hilarious till you realize that I am camping with these two. So that means she's going to need a bath to sleep in the tent. Yeah. So the whole rest of the walk back, I called her catfish, but well, she didn't care. She was quite proud of herself. So anyhow, she'll be available to a good home next week if anybody has room for a stinky dog. And then we started our walk back and we saw some more quail and lots of bunny rabbits out here. And there's Xander bringing up the rear. What you doing, Sam? Hope you enjoyed.